backwards in hindsight, talking about UTSA, I say every week it's always great to win because it sure beats the alternative. But I was really proud of this team, really proud of the way they went and competed in this football game. A very physical football game, very hard-hitting football game, very emotional football game on both sides, but really proud of what our team was able to go out there and do. Congratulations to Terrell Pinson, not only for being the Defensive Player of the Week, getting the helmet sticker on Saturday night on ESPN, just all the accolades that he is receiving for the performance, I think is a real tribute to him and all the hard work he's put in, but I think it's also speaks volumes for the role that our defense is playing right now in our football team and the job that they're doing for us here the last couple weeks. I think as a team we are maturing. I say maturing. Earlier I talked a lot about work in progress and where we were going. I think as a football team we are maturing in that we have played hard. I've said that each and every week just talking about the effort of this football team, but I think the thing that is really encouraging me the last couple of weeks has been that we are playing intelligently. We're playing smart. We're playing right now, I say, winning football, and that we're following the plan, and we're really not just out there running around, because there's a difference between playing hard and playing smart, and that's why I say I really feel like this team is beginning to mature with some of the things that we're doing. By some of the things we're doing on the field. I think UTSA is a really good football team, a really talented football team, and I think their defense is well deserving of many of the billings that they have as one of the better defenses in this league. But in this game, we had some players that had to step up. Jens Danielson stepped in on the offensive line and I thought did a really nice job with Paul Turner being out. You've got two freshmen the last 2 weeks and Carlos Henderson and Marcus Gaines that have really had to step up, and Marlon Watts ended up playing quite a bit in this game and ended up playing a role in the game. And so defensively, with Mitch Villamez playing a very limited role with his injury during the course of the week, Russell Ferris stepped in as a freshman. I thought played a really nice football game, did some really good things. And Cedric Cooper, because this was a game coming into it. Cooper's been our fourth safety, but Grogan was not able to play, which was kind of a game day decision as he's been fighting a little bit of sickness, which he's fine with now, but was not able to play. And all of a sudden, Cooper's going from playing 8 plays a game to playing 35 or 40 plays a game. And I thought some guys really stepped up and did a really nice job in this game. And that's one of the things that we keep talking about, building that depth on this football team, because you never know when it's going to come in with injuries. And some of those guys really stepped in and did some very positive things. I think defensively, we are starting to become a little bit of what we felt we could be at the beginning of the year when we talked about our defense was going to have to carry this team a little bit early in the season, and you're really starting to see them mature, understand, develop some consistency with what they're doing right now. And I can't say enough about the guys on the defensive side of the ball and the way that they're playing and the things that they're doing. I think our defensive staff is to be commended. They've done a great job putting together game plans. But I think when you start looking at Tony Johnson and Terrell Pinson and Levander Liggins and Adarius Barnes and Woods and Grogan and Bryce and having Dora back in the front, the difference that made, and the way that Houston Bates is playing and Vernon Butler. I think there's a lot of really positive stories going on the defensive side of the ball right now, and it's nice to see, because I think if you can play defense like that every week, it gives you a chance each and every week to be in a football game. I think when I look at this game, there's some things obviously that we need to do a better job of. The production in our kicking game is definitely one of them. We've got to get better in our kicking game, and then just the consistency on offense is something that we've got to get better at. I thought we did some good things running the ball, but we're not near as consistent as we need to be. And I think probably the lack of big plays, being able to make those big plays, and the penalties really were the two things that I'd like to see us change as we're moving forward. But I think the key offensively would be consistency. But the one thing we're not sitting here talking about is we got to do a better job of protecting the football. I think Cody Sokol didn't have one of his better games, but I thought he did a very good job of managing the football game against a very good defensive team who was creating a lot of pressure on the quarterback. It's always nice to get a win, to win in conference, but as I tell the team, you got 24 hours to celebrate it, and we were on to Southern Miss last night. And getting into this game, excited. I know this is the third longest running rivalry we have on our schedule this year. When you talk about after Lafayette, Northwestern State, so to come into this game and have an opportunity to play it, we're really excited about it. I think Coach Monken has done a great job. I've known Coach Monken for a long time, back when he was a graduate assistant. Well, I had a long relationship with him. He's a very good football coach, and I think you can start to see in their second year they are getting better, trying to put together their program with some of their players, and I think you're really starting to see some of the benefits of that, especially when you watch them how they've improved this year. I think it's very hard to look at them statistically and say, well, what do they do really well when you have to play Mississippi State and Alabama as two of your non-conference games, just like when you look at us playing Auburn and Oklahoma. Maybe statistically we're not on the top of any charts, but I think as a football team you can see the improvement that they have made as a football team. It starts with them on the offensive side of the ball with their quarterback, sophomore, very experienced. I say experienced. He played all last year as a freshman, really starting to feel more and more comfortable, very accurate throwing the football. He's the number 3 quarterback in our league right now as far as yards thrown for. They're throwing it an awful lot, but then they come back last week, and not only do they throw for a lot of yards against a very good North Texas team, a team that was picked to win the West Division, they also rush for over 200 yards. They got 2 running backs that are really playing well for them, kind of a little bit more by committee than just one guy doing it all. They've got a group of wide receivers. But the 2 in Thomas at X and Martin at H are the 2 guys that are their big play guys, and then ball control. Martin's a little bit more of the ball control receiver, and those are the 2 primary targets. It's not by accident that those 2 are the kick returners and the punt returners. Very talented players. I know Martin's averaging over 12 yards a return on his punt returns. I think their special teams are very solid, so it ought to be a great test for us. It's a conference game and it's a road game, so we know every week it's going to be a challenge, and we just got to get ready to get our players focused in and ready to play with a 1-0 mindset of where we are right now.
After reviewing the tape, you talked about Cody didn't have his best game. Was it lack of execution? Was it all what UTSA was doing defensively, or a combination? What was it?
No, I mean, I look at, there's probably 2 or 3 reads when you go back that say, golly, wish we would have went here, wish we would have went there, that he can look at and say, you know what, yeah, okay, I messed that one up. But, when you look at him statistically, he had a couple balls he threw away. He had 2 clock plays. So you start to take 4 or 5 of those off. And, he was in a man coverage where we were trying to throw the ball down the field a little bit more. And he's that far from hitting Carlos Henderson down the sideline early in the game. He's that far from hitting Hunter Lee down the sideline on the right. He had another read that I know we would love to have back on a post route. But, if you have an opportunity to hit 2 of those and put 14 more points up, it's very similar to what we've done the last couple weeks. And you have a 48-point day on offense. And so I think he's doing a great job of managing the game, and I don't want to take that away from him because we're not turning the ball over. I looked at it last year offensively. At this time, we were 118th in the country with 2.7 turnovers a game. That's one of the things that we had talked about trying to do a better job of, and I think he's doing a good job of managing the game. But I think we got to be a little bit more precise in man coverage to be able to hit some of those.
Given your inconsistencies on offense, how key has your defense been to help you get a short field and score?
Well, very. They're creating turnovers. They're getting the ball back in our offense's hands. And, when we talk about the inconsistencies on offense, the frustration part, when you go back and look at the drive charts, you gain Kenneth Dixon rushes for 100 and X number of yards, but yet you end up with a whole bunch of 3 and outs and punting, and you start to look back and it's 2nd and 4, and you run for 6 on first down, and then a guy jumps off sides, and now you're back to 2nd and 11, and then you may get 5 of it back. You throw an incomplete pass on 3rd down with a couple young receivers out there, with everybody just getting on the same page, and it looks bad, like you're not doing anything offensively. But I think we keep talking about we've got to eliminate the penalties. We had 5 penalties at halftime, I believe, and it's something that we've got to eliminate as an offense. We had 5 on the day on offense, and it's something we definitely have to eliminate to give ourselves a chance to be able to control the ball and make first downs, because there's only 2 ways to score: throw the ball over everybody's head or get good enough to where you can methodically move the ball down the field and put it in the end zone. And we've been able to hit some big plays, but weren't able to make so many of those. But what I will say offensively is when our defense got those turnovers, we had a 40-yard drive and we were able to put it into the end zone, had a 10-yard drive and were able to finish some of those plays. But I think our defense is doing a great job right now of really helping the offense and putting them in a really good field position.
Given how good Kenneth Dixon is, what do you guys try to do offensively to be creative, to find different ways to get him the ball, since obviously defenses know that he's one of your best players?
Yeah, I mean, running for 121 yards is pretty good. That, or however many yards it was. We've got to find a way to get him the ball a little bit more. And I say that a little bit more, but I'm not looking to say we're going to just make him where we give him the ball 35 times and let him take some of the pounding with everybody focused on him. I think last week one of the things that we were really trying to do was manage an offensive football game against a really talented defensive front. A defensive front that I thought coming into the game is one of the better fronts that we'll face, especially in this conference. A lot of experience, they're big, they're strong, and that definitely had something to do with how we were trying to manage the game as an offense. But Kenneth is very versatile, can help in a lot of different ways, and he has helped. I mean, catching the ball out of the backfield some and getting a running game going. But in that game, we said we wanted to manage it. We wanted to get a little bit bigger with tight ends and fullbacks, and we wanted to have an opportunity to put a hat on a hat and be able to run the ball. And we were able to do that. We got accomplished what we wanted. It was not a game that you go into and say, okay, let's see if we can score 50 points today against a great defense and sit in the pocket and let our quarterback take a beating and throw a bunch of interceptions that cost us a football game. I thought offensively we executed the game plan of what we were trying to do. I wish we could have done it better, but I thought the primary goal of what we were trying to do in that game we were successful with.
Skip, you talked about the maturity of your football team. I would think an obvious sign has to be that you're winning football games you did the other day.
Right.
On a day when your offense isn't getting it done.
Exactly, without a doubt. And I think there's ways to win and there's ways to lose. And when you start having a bunch of penalties, you're bad in the red zone, you're not very good on third down, you're turning the ball over. I mean, those are formulas for disaster. There are certain things you have to do to be a good football team. They're talented football teams, and they're teams that play hard. But winning football is, to me, there's a formula to it. And there's certain things that you have to be able to do if you want to give yourself a chance to win. And I think this team is starting to understand that, and we're doing it much better than we did a year ago, for sure.
How would you assess the intensity of this rivalry compared to some of the other games you played this year?
The UTSA or the Southern Miss coming up?
Southern Miss coming up.
Okay, I mean, we always talk about the geographical rivalries, those schools that are within, that 2 or 3 hour window. And we talked about Lafayette and having the in-state. And with Southern Miss and having us with a 45-game series history between the two schools, obviously there's tradition here. There's history here. We're 3.5 hours away. We recruit each other against each other. We're now in the same conference. I think it's very competitive. I think 3 of the last 4 games have come down to the final possession or one possession, if I'm correct in saying that. But I mean, it's a rivalry game, and it's one that we're excited to be involved with. But I definitely think it's a huge rivalry.
Your defense played well, probably really the second week and the third week. I'm looking up here at the board. But in the last 2 weeks, you've forced more turnovers than you did in the previous however many weeks. What's been the key in the last 2 weeks?
I think some of it has to do with the understanding, all these guys really understanding how things fit. When you blitz, the ball's going to come out quick. You can sit on a route rather than keep backing up. I mean, have an understanding, and I think that's where our defensive staff has done a really good job. I think our players feeling more comfortable in the system. You got to remember, this is a system we put together in the spring. Having a new defensive coordinator, we started all over in the spring, I mean, with new terminology and everything, and I think they're starting to feel more and more comfortable. And as I talked about, the first 6 games were a work in progress. And when you sit down and you're able to watch Oklahoma, you're able to watch Auburn, and you're able to say, you know what, if we do what we're supposed to do, we're pretty good. And you can see the improvement we made from Oklahoma to Auburn. And I think that switch has really flipped, and these guys have really bought in. And they've done, like I said, they've done a great job. And I think our defensive staff has done a great job with an experienced defensive team. And those guys really starting to understand it. And I give the credits an awful lot of well, I'm going to say all the credit because I think the defensive staff's done a great job, but the players are the ones that go out on the field. Players are the ones that go out on the field and get it done, and I think they just are feeling more and more comfortable every week in what we're doing and how they fit into it, and they're really getting a good understanding with it, and they're playing fast.
Given your ability this past week to run the ball against a physical front, it has to make you feel confident with your offensive line going forward, the fact that you won't see another front as good as they are.
They're getting better up front, for sure. They're getting better. And it was great to see Jens Danielson get in the game and see him have the success that he did against some very physical and very aggressive defensive ends that can rush the passer. But I think what we had talked about with the move of Wixon and Brunson and Trey Carter inside, I think is really paying dividends, and those guys are playing well. And like I said, they're battling against one of the better fronts. And so it was encouraging to see. I think, again, we still got to keep getting better. Those guys have been playing together now as a unit. I think this is 3 weeks in a row we've had the same lineup up front. And I think they're starting to get more and more comfortable. But when you really get there is when those guys have been playing like 2 years together, 3 years together. But I'm excited about 3 weeks, having that type of stability on our offensive line. And I do think that they'll get better each and every week.
Obviously, you want to win every game, but what does it mean to you guys to be undefeated in Conference USA?
Well, it's huge. It's the goal. It's the goal when we come into it and what we want to do. And I think right now, I'm excited about where we are. We talk about the big picture on Sunday, and then on Monday, we're right back to game week. I mean, we talk a little bit about big picture. Here's where we are. Here's the division. Here's our record. Here's everybody's record in the league. And now we're back to Monday, and it's Southern Miss week, and it's a 1-0 mentality, and we don't talk big picture anymore during the rest of the week. I mean, the rest of the week, it's all about our focus on what we got to do here. So we're trying to stay away from the big picture right now because the big picture is not going to help us focus on what we got to do this week to go 1-0.
Coach, specifically about Southern Miss and what they like to do offensively, just a quick glance at their numbers. They look like they're about a 75-25 passing team, and they put up some impressive numbers. It's something they have to capitalize, so to speak. Want to give me your thoughts on what they like to do?
Well, offensively, and they're throwing for about 275 yards a game, like I said, which puts them, I think, about third in our league in what they're doing offensively. But you say 75-25, and I would even say that probably seems a little bit low. I mean, they're probably more like 90-10, but then they come out last week and rush for 200 yards. And that's why I said that's where they're getting better, is because they lost their one dimension that they kind of were early in the season. And last week showed a sign that a lot of people hadn't seen with them being able to come out and run the ball the way that they were. And so I think offensively they're very good. Like I said, they've got a young quarterback who's now been in the system for his second year. Now, I think he throws the ball very accurately. I think it all starts with him, and they throw the ball around. They've got some really good receivers. Their offensive line's doing a good job of pass protection, and that as many times as they've thrown it, I believe they've only given up 14 sacks. In 6 games, or 7 games. So I think when you look at them right now, I think offensively they're putting up some numbers, and that's why you can't just go back and say what do they average in. You look at what they've done the last couple of weeks. They're getting better and better, and you can see they're starting to make some changes. Some of the freshmen are coming along. Some of the freshmen are starting to play for them, and they're starting to get into a little bit more of what they want to do as an offense.
How critical?
Side of the ball, it looks like they're getting gashed pretty good up front, and when teams rushing against them, which has to be encouraging, I think, with your game plan together.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at it right now, I look at number 97, and I think 97 may be the single one of the better players in this league. As a defensive tackle, you watch him. Mississippi State, he makes every tackle. Alabama, he makes it. He is disruptive as he can be. I mean, he's a great player. He's a very talented player. But I think when you look at, they're playing a lot of young guys, and where it's hard, I think at Alabama, Mississippi State, they gave up a lot of statistics early, and they were kind of taking their lumps with some of their younger players who, just like our defense, is starting to figure it out, and they're getting better and better. I think they're doing the same. They're doing the same thing. And I think, you look at them statistically, and which I think is very hard to do because it doesn't tell the story of where they are as a football program and a football team right now. And I do think they're getting better, and as evidenced by their 30-20 win last week on the road against, like I said, North Texas, a team that was picked to win the division.
You look at their offensive line, that's really been their struggle the last 2 years. When they struggled, their offensive line has struggled. What has happened on the offensive line that's made them get better?
Well, I mean, the way that they're throwing the ball right now, they're asking them to pass protect, and that's what they're asking them to do what they can do. They're playing some younger players. They've moved some people around. They've shuffled some people on their offensive line to find that right combination. But right now, the thing that they're doing is they're doing a really good job of pass protecting. They're buying time for their quarterback. He's sitting back there, and they are throwing for 270 yards because they're getting the ball down the field. I mean, they're really doing a good job, and they've got some good concepts. I know Coach Monken has been in a lot of different passing schools and been exposed to a lot of different ways to do it. But right now, with some of the things that they're doing, stretching the field vertically, they're doing some really good things with it right now.
89 points off turnovers, back-to-back games with 11 tackles for a loss. How difficult is it for opposing teams to game plan against the way Tech's defense is currently playing?
Well, we did it all spring, and we did it all fall camp, and not necessarily game planning to beat it, but having to go against it. Like I said, Coach Diaz has got a lot of wrinkles in what he does as a defense, and it is very difficult to prepare for everything that he can do. And then having Dorback and Butler and Houston Bates and the three senior linebackers and Pinson, Johnson, and Villamez, and an experienced secondary and Liggins and Adarius Barnes, and the way Woods and Bryce are playing, I think, you know what I mean, having that makeup makes it a dangerous combination because you got some guys that have played some football, so we don't have to be vanilla on defense. You know, he can utilize his bag of tricks right now, and so can make it very difficult to prepare for because he's not one-dimensional because he can give you so many different things. But like I said, they totally different offense this week than the week ago. Last week, they did everything. This team, you know, they're going to line up, they're going to be in 10 personnel, and they're going to throw it. I mean, 80% of the time. You know that's what you're going to get. Which makes it probably a little bit harder because they're good at what they do right now and throwing the ball, and they're throwing for a lot of yards.
Hey, Coach, with the extended weeks and open dates kind of out of the way, have you had that talk with the team yet, or will you about it's 5 weeks straight, this is the time we've got to make that run?
No, we talked about, we broke the season into, really, we broke the season into a 6-game season to get to the first open date. And then took a breath, and then we said, you know what, now these are the next 4 opponents. And we talked about that during the open date, and we're kind of in a 4-game season in this stretch and saying we got a 4-game grind. We got to put our nose to the grindstone and go 1-0 each and every week. We've got Southern Miss this week, and then once we get to the next open date, we'll take a breath and kind of look at where we are. As I said, we're really trying not to look at, okay, how many are left, where we just, let's go through 6, take a breath, let's go through 4, take a breath, and look at where we are when the smoke clears and what we got left for the final 2.
You talked about Lloyd Groves, you're expecting him back this week.
Yeah.
How's everybody else shaping up?
You know, it's so early in the week. I mean, with the Sunday yesterday, we got some guys, very physical game. We got some guys that were limited last night in what they were able to do in shorts. We'll get a much better idea as we get into Tuesday and Wednesday and how everybody responds to treatment and who's going to continue to come along. I'm hoping the guys that were out last week, I think Grogan will be fine. I mean, he practiced Sunday. I mean, he's good to go. And then I guess Bo Feet and Paul Turner would be the 2 that kind of miss. Mitch Villamez will be fine this week. Just with him missing a lot of the practice last week, we said we were going to go with Russell Ferris. I thought he played an excellent game going in there as a true freshman and starting in a conference game. And then we felt like if we need Mitch, he was available to play, but if we didn't meet him, we'd give him 1 more week to get ready to play. So I would expect he'll be back at full strength. And everybody else, I'll probably have a lot better feeling towards the end of the week when we find out who can practice.